Welcome to the Background Noise Podcast, episode 11. I'm your host, Jack.
I'm Joe.
I'm Joseph.
And this week, we are talking about the newest Ghostbusters film, Ghostbusters Afterlife. We're fortunate enough to have John from last week's episode coming back for this week's episode to talk about this with us. So, John, thanks so much for coming back. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, he didn't learn his lesson the first time.
Glad we didn't scare him off.
No.
Yeah, we didn't scare him off last time, and now we got to bring him back on to bring some more ghosts at him.
That's right. Well, I think since I feel like we can all pretty much admit that it'd be very hard for us to, we've never been good at trying to do a talk about anything without giving away spoilers. I'd say just right now, let's say whether or not the film's worth seeing, and then we'll just jump into it.
Yes. The end.
Yeah.
Cool.
The film was worth seeing. Go watch it.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, guys.
Yep, I agree. Perfect. So we're on the same page. We're all in agreement. Watch the movie, and if you don't want anything spoiled, stop listening now and then come back. So we're just gonna jump right into it now. Alrighty. I say if since we're everything's on the table now, I say let's just jump in. First thing I would start with is just the cast. I thought the cast was awesome. McKenna Grace especially. I thought she was excellent. I think something I thought, and obviously if you guys have anything to elaborate, please jump in, but I think a lot of times it can be very easy for a child actor, especially one who's trying to play the smarter one, to come off as really annoying, but I never got that from her. I thought she was very, adorable isn't the right word, but just very heartwarming and
very endearing.
Yeah, very endearing and just a lovely character and very much, made the movie easily the best performance in the movie, in my opinion. And there were some good ones, but hers just easily, I think, outshined the rest of them.
Yeah, definitely best part of the movie, I think, was just her role. I don't even know, like the because instead of having it be the four Ghostbusters, right, she's very much obviously the main character, and she actually does carry that pretty well, I think.
Yeah. Have you guys ever seen the movie Gifted with her in it with Chris Evans?
Gifted. Oh, that's her. I remember when it came out. I saw the trailer for it, but never actually saw it.
It's actually very good, and if you like her, that movie made me sit up and take notice of her as an actress. She's good. She's really good. So I definitely recommend it. Checking it out.
Nice. I'll have to do that. Cool. I was trying to think what else with her. No, I mean, she was excellent. I thought the other kids. I thought the other kids were good as well. I never seen the guy who played Podcast, but I thought he was fun. Yeah, I thought he worked with her very well.
I was worried about him, like hearing about his character and seeing him in some of the previews, but I was like, you know what? He's actually also make him really annoying. They made him kind of goofy, but in an, like you said with Phoebe, like in an endearing kind of way, and they had great chemistry together, the two of them. I liked seeing them kind of pal around a bit.
Yeah, and I definitely think with the child actors, I think they did a very good job with this. And like I said before, it's very easy to not do well with that, and because it's so easy to do badly with child actors, when they do a good job not only casting them, but they have a good performance, it really shines. And I think this is a good example of that.
I wasn't crazy about Lucky, though. I thought she was a little smug.
Which one?
Lucky, the girl that Trevor likes.
Yeah.
She was okay.
She also wasn't. She was also a very minor character relative to the others. So
she was the fourth one.
She was the fourth Ghostbuster, which
she was no Ernie Hudson, I'm afraid.
No, not at all. And
she's very much the stand-in for
she seemed like
Winston Zedmore.
Right. She seemed like she wasn't interested at all in Trevor. And then all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, I'll hang out with him and let him come around with us." So that was weird.
And didn't she say she had a boyfriend?
Like a pledge most of the movie.
She totally did. So I don't know if she was lying or what. But that was weird.
That was the thing. I was thinking there were a couple Chekhov's guns that didn't fire, and kind of they were related to her character. What is going on there? Does she actually have a boyfriend, or is she just lying to him? Then why does the jacket fit? Is it a joke about Trevor being so skinny? I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I mean, with that, I kind of feel bad for Finn Wolfhard because I think he's a very good actor. I love him in Stranger Things, and
Yeah.
you know, I think in this, with what he was given, he was good. It's just they didn't really give him much to do, and so
I agree.
yeah,
I thought that too.
Yeah.
He kind of was just there to revive the car and drive the car.
right.
But he was good. I mean, he was good,
Yeah.
but like, and I saw the movie again last night with family who hadn't seen it yet, and I needed a second viewing to kind of process it a little more because I'm
Yeah.
so attached to the first one. And I liked it better the second time. I liked it the first time, but I just was numb about it and wasn't sure how to process it. And the second time, I definitely liked it a lot more. And I liked him more the second time. It wasn't that I didn't like him the first time, but he didn't leave much of an impression. And I love Stranger Things, so I just felt like, he just was kind of there.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's a good character, and maybe there's more for him in the future. But I don't want to get too ahead here.
Sure. No, I know what you mean. So yeah, I mean, again, I thought he was good. I just the storylines they were focusing on, it definitely felt like they put the least amount of time into his story, concerning the people in the family. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I don't
really
think they
did
were
feel
as
like the McKenna Grace show, which is it worked because she's a good actress, but
yes,
you can tell.
yeah, and I think that's it's okay because of who she was and what she was doing, and her connection to Egon on a scientific level. I don't think it was like what they were trying to do with the remake and make it about a girl, but I just think they just whatever they did it right in the sense that it felt organic and not forced.
I agree. Yeah, because you definitely tell she's a lot like Egon, but it wasn't like she was trying to play Egon.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It was not a copy.
Right.
They're very, very much this is another person who is kind of weird and kind of intelligent and very intelligent, but not in a, like you said,
Not in
it's
a shallow
not
way.
ripping off. Just in a,
Right.
yes, I also know people who, when they were little, they were messing with the circuitry in their parents' house because they were curious, but not in a stupid, like, child sticking a fork in a light socket kind of way, but in a,
Right.
Don't call me
I
out
want to
like
figure
that,
out how
Joe.
this. What?
I said, don't call me out like that, Joe.
Oh, yeah. And then I thought, like, it was very. I thought one of the most amusing things in one of the funniest parts in, like, the first portion of the movie was they get to the house and the mom says, "Phoebe, pick this lock for us."
That was great.
The
Break into
mom,
your grandfather's house for us.
yeah, break into your grandfather's house. That's how she said it. Yes, like,
I love it.
the way she just understood her daughter. I was like,
Yeah.
she's kind of weird, but you know what?
Do the thing.
She could be kind of weird. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, it's like she didn't, even though it's kind of hard for her to connect with Phoebe, she at least knows her strengths to know when she can be used as an asset.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of funny. I was thinking about this, I think it was yesterday, that, like, the mom isn't super like Egon, but at the same time, like, my grandfather was into art, into drawing and stuff like that, and he could draw. He just didn't pursue it as much as, like, I have, and I've seen some of his drawings and they were good, but I would have loved to see him, like, really stick with it. And it's cool to look at Phoebe and be like, okay, she's more like her grandfather. Like, the love for science kind of skipped that generation and went right to the grandkids, and I thought that was cool.
That's kind of funny because I feel like that's almost more common than you'd think it would be, because that reminds me that my great grandfather was huge into baseball and loved. He was actually ended up being drafted by the Yankees. He got injured before he could make it, but he was drafted. He was actually good enough, and he met a bunch of the classic players and all that. So the stories he could tell were fantastic, and so I don't think he had any kids in particular who loved baseball, but my dad absolutely loved it, and so they would talk about baseball and all that, and so it is kind of funny how that
really
works.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I mean, Paul Rudd is always a win. This is just proof of that. I absolutely love Paul Rudd.
He was so good.
I mean,
every scene he was in was just like, oh, this is awesome.
I wanted more Paul Rudd. There wasn't enough Paul Rudd.
And I thought it was sad that, like, once he turned to a dog, that was it. He just wasn't really in it.
Yeah, that kind of bummed me out.
Because they bring the mom back, they don't bring the dad. They don't bring I mean,
the love interest.
the love interest. Is, you know what I meant.
Yeah.
Until the very end, and they have the same jokey. We cracked open the dog, and we got the wrong person. We care about the other person more.
That was funny.
I think what's funny about Paul Rudd is he's almost similar to a Ryan Reynolds, where it's like basically Ryan Reynolds at this point, basically he is the very charming, funny guy, and he basically plays that in every film. And now, I mean, Paul Rudd's very similar, but instead of leaning funny, he leans more on the nice, but he is also very funny, and he basically plays that same person in everything, and I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah.
I do like how they tried to reconcile kind of like his appearance with like his character. It's like you're the science teacher, or you're the seismologist. I'd pinned you more for like a gym teacher. It's like, hey, thanks.
Yeah.
I love that he doesn't care about summer school at all.
Oh
yeah, that is really funny.
Isn't there a really entertaining movie about a dog mauling people you'd rather be watching?
But yeah, I thought he worked very well. He had some great lines with McKenna Grace, and I thought they worked very well with each other. So
yeah, they were great. And I was thinking like his character was kind of like us, my generation as fans.
Yeah.
Like he was a fan of the Ghostbusters and you know, was excited about all the things that like you know, us nerds are sitting in the theater going, yeah, proton pack, that's right, traps, that's awesome. You know, it was great.
So that does get to something that I have a little bit of I have confusion on. It's not necessarily a criticism, but it could be a criticism depending on how the answer is, which is how much does this universe accept that ghosts exist? Because we know in this universe that ghosts exist, that there are just like actual spirits of dead people and also weird ectoplasm creatures like Muncher and Slimer.
Yeah.
Like those things are things that exist. And Paul Rudd's character, was it Mr. Gruberson, Gary Gruberson?
His name is Gary Gruberson.
He fully accepts their existence with no need of proof. Rather, they open up the box and he's like, "Yep, that's a ghost. Ghosts exist," and there's no like need to convince him. And he seems to be halfway convinced that the Ghostbusters actually were fighting ghosts and actually did kill the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and actually did all of the stuff that they did canonically in the two movies. But like, I don't feel like the universe has changed any because people in the 80s knew that ghosts existed.
Well, I refuse to believe that there's not footage of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man knocking over
Right.
a building.
True.
Well, they have the YouTube
that kind of took
videos.
me out of it.
Right, they had the YouTube videos of the ads, right? So someone
and they
had
even said business. What is it? Didn't Ray say like, yeah, business was too good. We were like almost doing too good or something. It's like, so that means after the Marshmallow Man, they still had business.
Well, because remember, at the end of the first, all the ghosts get released when the machine shuts down. So they got to do everything all over again.
Yes. Yeah, but still, like, that's a point of something that concerns me is like a continuity thing of the universe, which doesn't actually impact the quality of this movie as a standalone movie, or even really the trilogy. But it's something that's like, okay, what are the rules in this universe? Do people know? And this is actually something that bothered me even in Ghostbusters 2, because there's the one guy who works for the mayor, and I can't remember either the character or the actor's names.
Kurt Fuller. What is his name?
I think his name's Jack.
Yeah, Hardemeyer.
Sure.
That's right.
Oh no.
Jack Hardemeyer.
Who's like actively trying to disprove the Ghostbusters.
Yes.
Even though in the first movie, again, we saw the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man marching through the streets. Like we know that the ghosts are real. So
because there's just always going to be cynics,
right?
Even if they see something, they're not going to believe it. And and that never bothered me because of. I mean, I think you have a valid concern. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I guess it never really bothered me because there's that will be like, oh, I didn't see it, so I don't believe it, kind of thing, or like they might believe a video has been faked, or like the kids didn't know about it. So I mean, and Ray made it comment that like they kind of just went out of business and things dried up. So once that happens, then people just be like, well, it's not real, you know. And just like in the first movie, Peck is like, people think they're seeing ghosts, and they call the Ghostbusters. So he believed they were charlatans, you know, even, you know, when it almost seemed like even when Stay Puft is out there, he still wasn't really believing it until he was doused with marshmallow.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, I think that is interesting, but I guess it's never really been an issue to me because I felt like there's just, even when they could probably be holding the, you know, the whatever and still not believe it. You know, it's like, you know, Thomas and needing to side or something to believe, you know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
that's a good point.
acceptable. I don't know if that's an acceptable answer, but like, yeah, I just got the impression that there's just going to be believers and non-believers no matter what, you know.
For me, it's almost easier to believe in Afterlife that they don't like that people have, you know, forgotten than I do in Ghostbusters 2, because in this, first off, they're not in New York. They're, you know, where are they exactly? I forget.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Okay, so yeah, they're like far away from where this happened, because as far as we know, the Ghostbusters only stayed in New York. They did all this ghost hunting in New York. It was very much contained there. It's not like they, you know, toured or anything. It's not like they did a bunch of stuff. They did stay in New York for the entire show, I'm assuming, right? In Real Ghostbusters?
Yeah, I mean, they went to Paris once, and I think they might have flown somewhere else.
Okay.
Dublin or something. What?
Les Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah, in that episode, it turned out that the Eiffel Tower was an ancient ghost trap, and it was holding, or a containment unit, and it was holding energy.
That's awesome.
A bunch of ghosts. It was actually a good episode, yeah.
Nice. You know, classic normal stuff that just happens, right?
Sure. That's right.
The Eiffel Tower was secretly built to be a ghost trap.
Yeah.
All right, new Halloween episode next year. I'm watching the new Ghostbusters.
The Real Ghostbusters?
The Real Ghostbusters, that's what it is. Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, that's I mean, so I found it more believable. And again, you have basically I mean, I don't know if it's not 2 generations, but at least a whole other generation, and they have no memory of ghosts happening at all, because I feel like at least in this ghost universe, what they want us to believe in the Ghostbusters universe is that the major ghost incidents were the ones in 1984 and 1989. Those were the main ones that happened. After that, there weren't really any incidents, and so things kind of died down. And
they were just probably like running issues, like in someone's house, kind of thing. They were like exterminators.
Yeah. So I feel like, I mean, if you're in New York, you probably maybe heard stories about them, but outside of New York, especially if you weren't around at that time, I don't see why that would be a huge thing, and why, you know, that the ghosts had to have become a norm everywhere.
Well, actually, in the first one, didn't they have, like, they were on the cover of Omni magazine and all these other like big tech magazines? They kind of became like a global phenomenon, it seemed, from the way that they hyped them up in the first one.
True.
They were like
even
celebrities.
Like topping charts with like the in-universe Ghostbusters song, I think, because that's where we got our Casey Kasem cameo from, that I forgot to bring up last episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, but I almost wonder if that's more of like a one-hit wonder sort of thing, where it's like you remember them, but they were like only for like a specific amount of time, like for those people who were there.
I agree with you. You know, and just in the same way that Paul Rudd's character Gruberson, whatever, is like, you know, don't you know about this? You know, haven't you heard about them? Don't you know you have? You know, like, he's from that time period. He even said that he was like a fan of it and he followed it. So, you know, that all made sense to me. But, you know, I don't know. I guess, I don't know. I never really questioned that before, but that's a good point. And I do agree, though, that like it seems strange that in 5 years, actually, that did always kind of like perplex me. Like, in 5 years, you guys all really forgot about the Ghostbusters. Like, don't believe that what they did was real when a 100-foot Marshmallow Man was walking around in New York. I mean, come on.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, yeah. So I think that's why I think Afterlife makes more sense, because it is off in
Yeah.
this area where, you know, it's more believable. But I mean, I do think it's a sort of similar thing. At least, again, the people who were adults at the time, it's harder. But for those who, you know, the kids, like, you know, it makes sense why Phoebe didn't believe in ghosts and all that, because why would she? Podcast, same thing. I mean, I guess he kind of did, but you know.
Yeah, I guess the
It'd
the
be like us
kids.
asking a random 12-year-old, "Hey, have you seen Ghostbusters, like the movie?" What's Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
No, that's fair. I will say, okay, I guess thinking about this, talking it through out loud, the does not make sense in Ghostbusters 2, because 5 years later, all of the adults still remember the time that a giant marshmallow exploded in the middle of the city. So that one doesn't make any sense. Everyone should believe it. I will say that Ghostbusters Afterlife does make sense, where it's like people maybe are kind of vaguely aware that something happened in New York in the 1980s that was weird.
Yeah.
And it happened twice, but they're not sure of what happened. Because there's so many other things that happen in New York that if you weren't there, you don't understand it. Maybe I actually saw.
It really feels like a local legend kind of thing. That just happened to, with the age of the internet, might have not even be. If anything, with the age of the internet, it's like, you know, it might have been one, like, propelled it into like this myth or like legend status. It's like, oh yeah, back in the 80s, you know. But to be fair, I've thought about that too, but it hasn't. Thankfully, it didn't pull me out of this movie, except maybe kind of. Again, we keep bringing up the Stay Puft Man. It's just hard to go past that. But when you look past that part, it's like, okay, maybe there was some kind of misinformation thing. Maybe it was that. The good thing is it doesn't affect it, like them having to rediscover the fact that there were Ghostbusters doesn't take up most of like the first part of the film. It's just kind of a good little bit of it. But you know, nothing too bad.
They did a good excuse me, I can speak. They did do a good job. Okay, enunciate everything there.
You got it, Joe. Keep going. You're on a
Take it
roll.
slow. Take it
Of
slow.
the kids are figuring out their inheritance, kind of. You know, we are the grandkids of Egon, as they're also figuring out for themselves that ghosts exist. The ghosts exist because they don't know. Like Phoebe, Phoebe doesn't know anything about her inheritance as a Ghostbuster when they open up the trap the first time out in the school parking lot, and it destroys the car. They don't. She doesn't know anything about that, and then then she goes and she fixes the proton pack with her grandfather helping her, kind of. She doesn't know what's happening, but she doesn't know exactly what's happening, but she's kind of rediscovering, and then she goes back to fighting ghosts, and like so they do a good job of like having those two plots like developing in parallel and then crossing into each other. So
speaking of parallels, something I thought was interesting about this movie, and something I sort of appreciated, was that while, like, when you go to this film, you don't have to have known anything about Ghostbusters to enjoy the film. I think it is a film that stood pretty well on its own. I think you'll certainly appreciate it more if you'd seen the first, because there are tons of Easter eggs, and we'll get to those later. But I feel like just like Phoebe and Podcast were learning about ghosts and who the Ghostbusters were for the first time, I feel like a new generation of fans was also learning at the same time, or could.
Which maybe that brings us to a different conversation, which is this the end of a franchise, or is this the start of a new franchise?
As much as I love Ghostbusters, this is a good send off. This is their end game.
Yeah. What's funny about this is the more I've thought about it, the more it sort of reminds me of Force Awakens, simply because there are so many references in this film to what has come before. As far as how they treat their antagonists, it was very similar. And I can almost guarantee if another Ghostbusters film comes out, I won't like it. I feel like with this, it wraps up things. I don't need another one. I feel like if they try, it's not going to go well. And especially if they announce that Rian Johnson's directing it, I'm going to be pretty upset.
But it will subvert your expectations, Jack. Know that it will.
No, because our expectations will be that it'll be terrible, and it will be terrible.
Right.
Wait, hold on. I need to bring out some arithmetic for this. So if we...
Yes, I'm right. Just figure it out.
Maybe we'll cancel each other out like PEMDAS.
I was trying to figure out exactly how to describe it, and I think, Jack, you did it exactly right. This is what Force Awakens should have been.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like, if Force Awakens had been structured as a love letter to fans, as a closer, as a, hey, there are new characters, but the new characters are hearkening you back to the old characters, and you actually feel good about the old characters at the end, as opposed to Force Awakens, which is just doing everything it can to destroy your love care of the old characters.
I think there's just a lack of understanding, or there was a lack of understanding from that film that is very much kind of felt in this one. I don't know if it helps because it was, again, the director's son and all, and again the director too, because he helped, but
I do think it is the fact that the director's son, because the director's son has a appreciation for the thing that his dad did.
Absolutely.
Right? Naturally. And so
if
he's
he gets
saying
his wrong, his dad will write him out of the will. So
yes, exactly. Right.
And something that
did you guys
say, John?
Sorry. I was gonna say, did you guys stay till the end of the credits?
Yeah, there was like the mid and end credit scene. Yes, saw both.
Okay.
They actually ran us out of our theater. What is it? Saw the mid one with Sigourney. We'll talk about Sigourney Weaver later. But I missed the other one, but wound up reading about it. And the little hook, was it, little sequel?
It was actually a really good, surprisingly long scene. I liked it a lot.
It was
I thought it was sweet. Scene. Yeah, I mean, it was really shining a light on Ernie Hudson's character on Winston. I thought that was very sweet. And they set up, if they want to do another one, they could. But again, I feel like
go back to New York.
Right. It's like, and as cool as that sounds, just like that, great. But what's going to happen, or what definitely could happen, is if these are bad, it's going to make you not like Afterlife as much. And that's really what the Star Wars films did. I can't think of a single other movie trilogy that the more they did, the less I liked the ones that came before.
Yes.
Because Force Awakens on itself was fine. Last Jedi made it worse. Rise of Skywalker made it even worse.
I walked out of the theater with Force Awakens thinking, I enjoyed that. That was okay.
Yeah.
And then everyone after that, I walked out thinking, why? And
I'm not going to see that again.
I walked out of Rise of Skywalker thinking,
Pretty much.
And
it's funny.
Joe, it's all right. We'll have another episode for it.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll be honest, I did like Last Jedi when I first saw it, but I hated what they did with Luke.
Yeah.
And then I thought to myself, I was trying to be positive, but I was like, all right, if with Rise of Skywalker, and how that affects the trilogy. Well, I saw Rise of Skywalker. I enjoyed the ride of the movie, but the more I thought about it, the more I talked about it, the more I realized it really wasn't that good. And when I watched The Last Jedi after that movie, I hated it. I'm like, oh my gosh, it definitely ruined it, because now I know how it ends.
Right.
And Disney destroyed Star Wars. They destroyed the characters that I grew up idolizing, or whatever, like looking up to and loving, and there was just no excuse to destroy that. I mean, I get, like, Rian Johnson was a fan of Star Wars, and I liked some of his other movies, but like, I mean, I guess he just tried really hard to do something differently, and and the movies don't even like go together very well.
No, they don't.
Like, no one sat down and planned this.
This is what happens when nobody plans.
Those movies fit together like movies that were viewed 2 years apart from each other could fit together. Like, someone made the movie, and then 2 years later, someone's like, okay, now we got to make the next movie. and they just made it based on what they remembered from watching someone else's version of the movie.
Right.
Right.
Now,
Oh,
the main
these last two
difference.
pieces won't fit. Get the super glue.
Yeah, just
Right.
get the super glue or get the hacksaw until we
Both.
I mean, it also was a disservice that Carrie Fisher passed away, but still,
Right.
there's only so much you can. I mean, to just
Oh,
decimate
sorry,
it,
John, you
so.
cut out there. What was that?
Oh, I said they did their best to decimate it,
Yeah.
regardless.
Right. Exactly.
Oh god.
yeah.
I thought it was going to be a little note of positivity. It's like they did their best. Oh, okay. To decimate. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, it's actually this is something that I thought of
It's
because
understandable.
we talked earlier about Eternals. Actually, I might need to sneeze, so we might have to cut
Do
it
it.
out.
Oh, is that what Eternals did to you?
Well, I
He's
was talking
allergic
to the
to
friend,
Eternals.
and
So many things.
up through Endgame, I actually believe that Marvel had been planning things out and had a coherent story and knew what they were doing and understood
Yeah.
how to tell a coherent story over a long form of several movies.
Yeah.
And then we get to Eternals, and I realize maybe they knew it. Maybe they knew what they were doing, but they have no idea what they're doing now. They're just
Yeah, I got that
like,
vibe. I mean, I didn't see it, but I'm getting that.
Yeah.
yeah,
Marvel knows
They
how to
had
plan
the
for
idea up
end credit
until-
scenes now.
What?
yes, they know how to plan for tagging you into the next movie. They don't know how to make the actual movie anymore. But because there are some really interesting theories about how the reason that Thanos was trying to snap everyone and get rid of the universe is because he is a defunct Eternal, and
Oh, for Pete's sake.
he knew that something was going to happen because of population, but he didn't understand exactly what was going to happen, and so he's trying to save the universe by killing half the people so that the Celestials aren't being born. And I was like, okay, cool, that's a neat theory. Also, you cannot tell me that they actually were planning that.
Yeah.
They might retcon that back in after the fact. They might retcon that information in if they think that it'll buy it back, but they were not planning that to begin with. And it's the same thing with Force Awakens and the sequel trilogy. Is they did not know what they were doing, other than the giant mouse head in the sky said, "We need more money. We will print us more money." Yeah, exactly. And you're like, okay, all right, Mickey, we'll go print money. People like Star Wars, right? We'll just make a bunch of Star Wars. Don't kill me, mouse.
Man, I'm glad Ghostbusters didn't do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back that segues back into we had a sequel that actually understood what it was and actually understood what the franchise was and had an appreciation for the franchise that paid off for the fans, but also was its own thing. Right? This movie stands on its own as its own movie, as an interesting movie about ghost fighting, and also is a very nice capstone to the series. If is the last movie.
Right. The only thing I will say about comparing, if we're still comparing Ghostbusters to Star Wars, the difference is it just goes back to appreciation for what's come before and care. Because the difference is if, let's say, Abrams had Lucas sit with him, because apparently the story is Jason Reitman said every day he went to direct, Ivan Reitman was right there next to him, helped with every shot. It's like that appreciation and that care for the lore and for the material, I think really helped this film. Whereas people were so sick of the prequels, and yet instead of getting somebody to help Lucas, they're like, let's throw him out and come up with no original ideas whatsoever, except for bad ones. And so I feel like that's really what was a big strength here, was an appreciation and definitely a level of care that was not put into Star Wars, and a care for, the creator. And so I think if they had done that with Star Wars, even, again, you don't have to have Lucas direct, but having him on there as a producer or some sort of supervisor, at least help or give ideas, would have been great. But so that would be assuming they did it the same way. If they were going to do a Ghostbusters sequel, if they had them both there, there's slightly better chance it would do better than Last Jedi.
True.
I've heard they have ideas.
I have too. I mean, there's money to be made, but
I also heard that there's a reason why the Ecto-1 is not the Ecto-1A, and there's a story to tell there. So I don't know what that means.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
That means comic book or TV show is what that
Yeah,
means.
Yeah.
interesting.
Something you guys probably already noticed this, but something I thought was cool, was for a lot of the effects in this movie, they actually did use practical effects instead of CGI. So I thought that was a really fun touch. I liked that.
It was my favorite use of effects in the sense that you could tell that some of it was practical and it had some very good digital touch-ups. That is the pinnacle of effects, in my opinion. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Of course, you're not going to be able to do it all the time. You're not going to be able, oh, practical is better. And not always. But
Yeah, not always.
if you can do practical with digital touch-ups, that's class. That's quality right there.
Yeah.
Ironically,
Especially the
I didn't
terror
realize it.
dogs.
I didn't realize from the previews and stuff that the terror dogs were real in like a practical effect in Walmart until it was running, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. They kind of went back to the old school puppets,
Yeah.
and it worked, you know.
The running was also a lot better, a little better than the
Oh my gosh.
claymation.
Yeah, I mean it was just nice to see them in a good effect for a change. Even the transition from human to dog was way better. I thought that was cool. It was nice to see.
If movies have gotten good at one thing in the last 40 years, it's monsters on screen. That is something that they have definitely improved at in the last 40 years.
Fair.
That is without a doubt true.
So
I definitely know. Sorry, what were you saying? Go for it.
You go ahead, Jack. I already had one of my things.
Well, fine then. I think I will. So I was obviously there are a ton of Easter eggs in here from the first one. With the second, I noticed the only one I really noticed was obviously we have the conversation when we first see Ray. That's in his bookstore in the second one.
Yep.
Aside from that, were there any other references to 2? Because I didn't catch them.
I don't think there were, and it's fine by me, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I thought I heard another fan on a like Facebook group or something say there were 2, but I only saw that one. Like obviously, the Ray's a cult bookstore. I don't know if there were any references. I mean, I saw an article last night that Jason Reitman said Ghostbusters 2 is still canon, so don't worry about it being written, and that's fine. I mean, I think that'd be kind of actually lame to retcon the second one.
Agreed.
And just there's no need to. It didn't. I don't know. It had
just
a good
because
enough
people
ending.
Don't like it.
Yeah, I know, and it wasn't the best. But like I said last week, that it was just great to see the guys together again, and it'll be the second and only other time we'll get to see them together, and I'm happy for that. But it'll never be what I wanted it to be, which is fine.
Right. Now, speaking of the guys together again, what were your guys' thoughts on how they brought back the originals Ghostbusters at the end there?
You go first, John. I really want to hear your reaction.
I liked it. I thought it was great. I still wanted more time with them.
Sure.
But and I thought they could have done. It was nice to see Ray. Sad that they only had Janine for that one scene, but then it was nice that they brought her back in the end credit scene. And I thought it was the whole movie. I'm like, where the heck is Sigourney? So I thought that was neat that they threw her in the middle, and then hinted that her and Peter are still married, which is cool.
Yeah.
Or got married and are still. I was gonna say it was really cool that they actually show you Harold as Egon in like a digital form, and it looked good. And like I'm really picky about that. It was only a couple times it looked a little like a hair iffy, but for the most part it was very good, and I was surprised because I mean they did a decent job in Rogue One when they brought back Tarkin, but there were still moments when he would talk and stuff like that it didn't look quite right. But they got a good performance out of a digital character for for Harold in a very honoring way. I mean, if you can get an emotional reaction out of a digital character, then they did a good job. So even like the hug scene was just like a perfect little emotional nod, and
Yeah.
they got that from a digital character. So that's amazing. We really wanted them to pull up in like Ecto 1A or like a new, or some other vehicle they had created between the second and this movie. I thought that would be kind of cool. So they never show you how they got there, like what vehicle they had or how they, I don't want to think about it too much because it was a perfect opportunity today, which I remember hearing Mark Hamill say, like, for The Force Awakens, how come Luke doesn't just show up right before Han dies to, like, try to fight and save the day and stuff like that. So you see the three of them together again one more time or something like that. And I'm like, that's a really good point. Like, there's might be fan servicey, but there's a good way to make this work, and you could just just try, and so it was cool to see them show up and interact with Gozer again. And I loved the it seemed maybe like a little obvious or maybe a little cheap to go for the "Are you a god?" joke, but it was perfect, especially when Rey hesitates. And they're like, "Come on, man!
Come on, Rey!
Like,
Come on, Rey! You know this part. We've been through this before."
And that was classic Rey. So it was great to see that Dan Aykroyd could slip back into Rey. And I was worried if Bill Murray could channel Peter again, and I think he did. So I thought that was really cool, especially since he doesn't seem to care.
He was saving it for this script.
Yeah, he definitely channeled an old Peter, like that's someone who's kind of told all of his lines and is just he's just going back to the old lines. And like there's the part where he's rambling to try to get so one of they can switch on their pack, and I was like, where's it? What the heck is this? Okay, he's stalling, and boom, doesn't work.
There's the game show host vamping again.
Yeah. Also, and I did look up about where the other Easter egg is from Ghostbusters 2, but I just want to let you know that I know. Okay. We can finish the thoughts on the for reappearing if we want to do that first.
Go for it.
Oh, I just want to say one more thing. Like I refused to see this 2016 reboot, but I did Google, or I should say look up on YouTube, the appearance from Bill Murray in that movie, and I hated it, and it made me even more not want to see the movie because I just did not like his performance, did not like his character, did not like what they did with him. And I'm like, hopefully he, even though he's kind of over Ghostbusters, hopefully he can still channel Peter, and I was happy that he did.
Did he play Venkman in that movie?
No, he played like some other kind of character.
He played some skeptic.
Oh,
yeah.
He was there for kind of a. I mean, I know it's just like, it's a very mean. It was in a very poor taste, but it was just like very much a mean-spirited joke to kind of have like one of the guys who played one of the Ghostbusters to be somebody who doesn't believe in ghosts, and it's just like, the big joke isn't like, oh yeah, he used to be a Ghostbuster. It's just like, oh, he's some guy, he's some jerk or something, and then they throw him out a window, and it's just like, hey, it's funny, he fell out a window. It's just not a very funny movie.
Just add that to the list of pros of that movie.
That's right.
Yeah.
So where's the other Easter egg?
Yeah, Easter egg.
As we know,
the
first it's a very minor thing, because the first Easter egg is obviously the bookshop, and the second one is when I'm reading this from a website that has a list of Easter eggs. When the three young Spanglers are forced to hide under a kitchen table due to an earthquake, the shot looks intentionally reminiscent of Ray Egon and Peter Venkman hiding under a table in the courtroom scene.
That's right.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't really think about that, but it makes obvious sense now.
So it's a very minor Easter egg
reference.
Yeah,
very nice.
Just looking at this list, which you guys might appreciate. Maybe I'll send it over, or we can put it in we can link it. But there's a lot of things that are cinematography references as well that are not explicitly references to Ghostbusters 1 or 2, but references to 80s movies like Ghostbusters.
I think I can think of a few of them.
So
even the I didn't pick up on this, but I read about it and then I saw it last night when one of the mini puffs is walking across the grill and he melts. He does a thumbs up as he melts, just like in which is funny.
Yeah, in T2. That's funny.
It's too soon, man. It's too soon. Speaking of that, sorry.
No, go for it. Nope, go for it.
Speaking of that, the most horrifying sequence of the film.
Yes.
Marshmallow Man murder.
Right? Like those were like I don't know if those were intended to be horrifying, but those were very horrifying. Like their glee, their suicidal glee and
So
their
funny.
homicidal glee.
Oh, it was
It's like,
hilarious, but it was disturbing at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. I felt like I was watching the James Gunn Suicide Squad again. It's just like, oh, that's
my
horrible, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah, you're just
Yeah,
watching
I thought
people
you were going to
die.
say ripping Evo Shandor in half or J.K. Simmons in half.
Oh, yeah. Hey, what is it? Chalk that up for a surprise appearance of the week, J.K. Simmons.
That was a cool
Wow.
cameo.
I know, right?
I liked that.
I actually thought Olivia Wilde was a great choice for Gozer too. I was like,
That was her?
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, that was definitely her. I just like, hey, that works. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I knew I recognized the actress, but I couldn't tell who it was until I looked it up. I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I see that. That's
I'm gonna tell on myself a little bit as a what is it, voice acting nerd. I actually recognized the voice before I did the actress. That's what is it? Another actress did the voice. And I'm gonna butcher her name, but Shore Anglashul. She's big in like if you've seen The Expanse, she's like trying to remember her character's name, but yeah, she's a, I wouldn't say a character actress because she's just kind of just a good actress, but kind of a minor actress, and she's done a lot of voice work, and I'm a big fan.
Interesting. Cool. Okay.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
Nice. All right. As far as like the classic Ghostbusters coming back, I definitely it was very nice to see. I felt like Bill Murray was actually trying. He actually did seem to put effort and care into this, so that was nice. It definitely did not seem like he was phoning it in or any of the guys, so that was really nice to see. And so I did like their whole performance again. Wish we had had more time with them, but for the time they were there, they were very good, very charming, and like John already said, the Egon CGI, I mean, that's probably one of the better digital recreations of an actor that I've seen recently.
It worked because he didn't talk.
Yes, it worked. If you had told me that he was actually in the movie, I would have believed you.
Right.
So, which is, I mean, that's about as good as you can get, right? I actually am on the other side. I don't wish that there was any more. I think that the movie would, if there was any more of the four, it would have been too much fan servicey, as opposed to being its own movie.
That's fair.
Which, I mean, I guess the question is, do you want it to be fan service or do you want it to be its own movie? So,
I will say there were some moments where I felt it was a little gratuitous, but again, this film has two very big elements in terms of like the meta sense, in the sense that it's the Ghostbusters film for the fans, which it's possible to do. That's fine, and it's also a send off to Harold Ramis, and it works as both. And I feel like it's kind of lost on just the. I'm not like, it's like, oh, it's lost on the average moviegoer. Time to gatekeep. Oh, no. It's like, if you know what you kind of have to know what you're going to go in for. Not the fact that this is like, oh yeah, Harold Ramis's character dies in the first 5 minutes or something, but it's like, you kind of some prior knowledge is good, but at the same time, I feel like the fan service and whatnot doesn't detract enough from it being a good film.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah, good balance, I thought. I definitely think it was trying to be both something that could stand on its own, but also be an homage to what's come before, and I think it balanced that pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, the second one was not very subtle with callbacks to the first one, including having the Statue of Liberty walking through New York City in the same way that it was trying, like to mimic. Oh, we need another kaiju to walk through New York City. So let's make it be a good guy this time, and have it be driven by the Ghostbusters. Like, yeah, it just seemed like a cheap attempt to recreate all about the first one.
Right.
And so this one definitely had more than enough callbacks. Maybe a couple too many, but I thought it was still good.
Yeah.
I just thought of something because you talked about the callbacks because there wasn't a big kaiju fight in this one, right? There wasn't the Stay
Which
Puft.
is
There
good.
was several
There's-
smaller ones.
There's the mini puffs, but whatever, that's not a big deal. And then we have but we don't have the Statue of Liberty. But we do have a very good appreciation for the power of Gozer because there are very few times like it whatever, it's an alien being, whatever.
She's fun.
She comes onto the screen. She comes out of the temple because the dogs summon her, and like when Phoebe steps up, she's not like trying to fight her, right? She just tells jokes to distract her, and you can tell that Gozer's like, I could just obliterate you, but I'm trying to figure out what you're doing here,
right?
And then that allows them to strip her of half her power by capturing one of the dogs.
Yeah.
And then you get the impression that there's actually a desperate race to get to the point where they can capture her before she can get back all of her powers.
Yeah.
And then even when she finally does, she only has that for a very brief moment, and they have all of them firing their proton packs at her to barely hold her in place so they can open up the trap. And so they do a very good job of making this character defeatable, but also feel powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it when she was like grabbing the streams and pulling them.
Yeah, uncrossing them.
I always like.
Oh, and uncrossing. Oh my gosh, I thought that was awesome.
That's really
It was almost
cool.
like she saw what they did last time and was like, I don't think so. We're not gonna do this again.
That's not.
But
gonna work a
also,
second time.
there was only 3 of them, whereas there were 4 of them previously.
Right.
And so it was like, okay, they need at least 4 streams to beat her, because they couldn't do 3. So it was like they needed Egon or Phoebe to be pitching in.
Yeah, I feel like they could have, by bringing Gozer back, they could have done that badly. It could have almost been a cheap move, just like, hey, this didn't work before, let's do it again. But how they present it here, it almost makes you think, okay, instead of thinking of it that way, think of it, no, Gozer is just that powerful. It's like, yeah, you stopped her on the tower, but you didn't really stop her. You just stopped her there. That wasn't like her base. That was just like one of the little camps she had set up or something.
Yeah, sure.
You didn't unalive her. You sent her back through so that she can come through again when the door opens the next time.
Because didn't they say in the movie, send her back through the gate? Like,
I think so. I think that's exactly what they said. So,
and I was gonna say, did you guys get like a little bit nervous and kind of scared having flashbacks to Rise of Skywalker with Phoebe and the stream versus Gozer and her lightning? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Rey and the Emperor all over again.
Wait,
like,
Gozer, just turn it off. Just turn it off.
Oh my gosh.
I saw a movie with one of my it was with one of my buddies. Then again, not these 2 buddies, but they're still buddies. But anyway, yeah, I saw with one of them it just happened to be in the same theater we saw that in, and I was just like, I looked at him and I did like the Palpatine hand thing, like the little lightning fingers, and he was just like,
yeah.
Yeah, I got a little vibe there. A little vibe. Yeah. It worked out though. Worked out in the end. This really is the good sequel.
Yeah.
Just in general. Like the sequel that blows all the other modern sequels out of the water, I guess.
Right. And what's funny is
it does all the moments better.
I think they finished filming this movie before Rise of Skywalker even came out. So that's interesting to think of too.
That is weird. That's been like around for that long just because of COVID and hasn't been released yet. It's kind of funny how many films have been delayed this badly because of it.
I know.
If I'm being honest, I don't know. I think the reason and this could be completely wrong. Just thinking, it's like I think the delay benefited it very much because from we haven't really looked at technical level other than the Harold Ramis digital double, but on a technical level, I think everything kind of benefited from that extra little bit, because there's a pretty good level of polish on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
They
I assume that they spent more time on it. I would think that like, okay, we have more time. Let's do it.
I mean, like, why not, right? So
Yeah.
Except for money, but still.
Well,
yeah, other
it's
than
Hollywood.
that part,
They're fine.
they didn't reshoot anything, at least from according to like any news stuff. I didn't. If I'm being honest, if I'm being honest again, I got to stop saying that.
Man, 2 for 2.
I haven't.
Stop not being honest with us. Gosh.
That's right.
If I'm lying,
stop telling
then
lies.
I cannot tell a lie. Well, but yeah, I haven't really kept up with it, but it didn't seem like they reshot anything, which is normally kind of a death sentence for some of these.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna say blockbusters, but kind of you know the movie. If it's got reshoots for that certain kind of movie, it's like, ooh, oh no, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although I guess the Marvel movies now schedule in reshoots to their schedule for like ahead of time, just in case they need to change things or fix things, add things, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, so that's a different thing, right? That's we are planning in time with the intention of fixing problems, because we might need to tweak some stuff. But if you make it and then you come back and you're like, oh no, we have no idea what we were doing, we need to fix everything now. That's very different than we are going to come back to this and tweak it if we need to.
And I read somewhere that they actually were writing this, I guess, around the time of the reboot.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. So that might be why, because it seemed like rushed production, because they announced it at like the beginning of 2019, and they'd say it'd be out in like a year and a half or something like that, like next summer. It was like January, and they already had some. I guess they kind of did like a small preview, but they hadn't started filming it yet. But it just seemed to be happening really fast, and then it gets, the doubled the time before it actually releases, which is weird, Like it was ready to come out last summer, and then almost a full year and a half later.
Man. Well, I do think we should probably get this thing wrapped up. Let me see here. Yeah, I'd say at this point, out of our usual rating scale, I'd say out of 10. Out of how many dad jokes would you give it?
I would give it 8 dad jokes out of 10.
I'll give it 8 as well.
I'm probably going for 7 science-related jokes that also might be dad jokes out of 10.
We didn't even talk about those jokes. Those jokes were amazing, by the way.
Oh,
those were funny.
They were.
My favorite was the hamster one.
Oh, I love the hamster joke. Yes.
Okay, yeah, that one was pretty good.
And ill-timed too.
Yes.
I would give it maybe 7.5 or 8 mini puffs out of 10.
There you go. Yes, mini puffs. There you go.
Yeah.
The proper rating system.
Man, well, John, thanks so much again for hopping on the podcast. It's been a blast,
Sure.
as always.
Me,
and we'll definitely have to have you back for
Ghostbusters
something
4.
else. Ghostbusters 4. There you go.
Hopefully
not. Hopefully not.
Busting.
Something. Hopefully it's a bit more pleasant than that.
We are bringing you back for the Ghostbusters TV show, because definitely
there you go.
If we do that one, I say if, like we're not going to. When we do that.
That's right.
Oh man. Okay.
Awesome. Alrighty then. Well, before I wrap us up, John, you want to plug your stuff?
I don't have to.
Do it.
Go to last week's show.
That's right.
It,
there you go. I'll put links in the description. I'll put links in the description.
And answer the phone. Who are you going to call? Oh.
Alrighty then. Well, thank you so much for listening to the Background Noise Podcast, where if you've been listening, we appreciate you. But if not, no worries, because you did not miss anything.
And, as always, I know who I'm going to call.